Good morning to you. It's Mr. R2 here at Consistency is Currency. Like I always say, it's your morning podcast of choice. Today is Thursday, December the 12th. Wow, why I keep saying December? Today is Thursday, January the 12th. So forgive me if I'm still back there. I guess I can ask myself the own question, like, what happened to you? What happened to you that you're still saying that it's December? I don't know. Maybe I just need to take my time in the morning a little bit more during my prep to talk to myself in that time to say, what are you going to say before you start to ensure that I probably say the month, the date more. So I won't say it's December because we all know it's not December, but it is January the 12th. I definitely always appreciate you for being here. Always show a sign and a spirit of gratitude just for showing up because you could be anywhere right now here in this world at 7:30 in the morning, but you're here with me at Consistency is Currency. That's like bars, right? I think so. Here with me at Consistency is Currency. I pray that your week has been a blessed week, a beautiful week, a bountiful week. And if not, ask yourself what happened. If so, continue it. Continue going on, continue pushing, continue striving, continue growing, continue developing, and pushing yourself and putting yourself in a place to where you're expanding your brand, expanding your brain, expanding how you think, expanding your level of consciousness, expanding your level of love, and whatever it is for you, just begin to ask yourself, like, what happened? Now, what happened? It could be a good question because someone may say and look at you like, Mo, something about you has changed. What happened to you? So then you be able to, brag about yourself a little bit. Like, you know what? I start reading. I start working out. I start studying. I start uh, laughing more. I start walking in the mornings. Whatever it is, all of those types of questions really begin to open yourself up to look at and examine what about you is different. Again, there's two sides to it. But the side that we're going to be talking about is just being open, honest, and transparent about it in general, right? Been open, transparent about the question in general, the open dialogue question. So as you can see right now, the question that is proposed right here, what have you learned about yourself lately? So that's the question of the day. What have you learned about yourself lately? Put that down in the chat, what you've learned. Whether it's good, bad, indifferent, or just you being open and transparent, like, you know what, I never knew how selfish I was until this. Like, whatever that is completely up to you. That's between you and your consciousness. That's between you and whatever it is that you want to say is between. But yeah. So, what have you learned about yourself lately? All right. So, we're going to jump into it. We're not going to be on here long, but I do want to open up some dialogue and allow you to uh, learn a little bit more about it. All right. So, as you know, those who are new to the platform, those who may not be new to the platform, you're going to get definitions of words, you're going to get inversions of words as well. And with those inversions, I want you to pay attention to because you too can go ahead and put how you see it inside the chat. So this is a open dialogue, open conversation, open community development as we begin to tap into what is or what's next. All right. So the first definition, uh, which is happen. Now we're talking about what happened, and I think happen has a second and tertiary effect when you begin to ask yourself that question: what happened to you? So as I begin to learn more about this question and how this question is a question that is of great value and of great and mighty benefits, just to ask yourself this question, like what happened to you? So the first definition of today is happen, which is ensue as an effect or result of an action or event. Ensue as an effect, a result of an action or event. And the inversion I want you to pay attention to is white over red, which is an effect or result of an action or event, meaning it happened. It happened. It happened in past tense. But now, what are you going to do right now in present tense? We can't continue to live on or live off of what happened if we're not going to do something about it. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, you have to understand that there is an effect that happens, but as a result of the action or the event, there is something that you are to do after it. Because if you continue to stay where you are in that place and sulk and cry and play the martyr and do all of that stuff that doesn't allow you to move forward or move on, those effects happen so much that it begins to transition into something more physical like ulcers, and that trauma begins to multiply and duplicate itself. But again, happen is an effect or result of an action or an event. But after you have understood that there isn't a result or an action that have taken place, what events are you going to create after you understand that it happened? What do you do after the pain? What do you do after the situation? What do you do after the circumstance? Because what happened to you happened to you. But what are you going to do right now? What happens now? I'm going to say that again. What happened to you happened to you. But what are you going to do now? What happens now? What is your process now? What are the great things that you've learned about yourself that you can continue to do now? Because whatever happened in the past have affected you as a result of the action or an event. But what happens right now? What developments do you put into place right now? What things do you actually begin to action right now? Because if you're not living or executing in the right now, you're going to always be affected by what happened in the past. You can remember what happened in the past, but to live back there will not allow you, or it will alter the way you live right now. So the next definition that I want you to pay attention to. Now, remember, this word ensue came from the definition of happen. So I wanted to extract that and expand the conversation just a little bit more in depth. So to ensue is to strive or attain, pursue, to come afterward, follow immediately. So the inversion that I want you to pay attention on ensue is to strive, to attain, pursue. To strive to attain or pursue, like what you ensue is up to you. Because if you're saying you're striving to attain it or pursue it, so what you strive to obtain is completely up to you. It's what you want to do, but how are you going to actually get there? It is completely your choice, not somebody else's choice. Because once you've learned about what have happened to you, then you take the option of pursuing something different and obtaining something different. Because how much energy, focus, and time you put into it, it will show in the results. Because what happens to you is a result. That's like a results driven question. Because it begins to open up a different level of consciousness that if you avoid asking yourself or answering what happened to you, it can be a lot more detrimental to you by not answering that question than it would be helpful. So ask yourself, what happened to you? And the next definition that I want you to pay attention to, it kind of rolls everything up because it is within the fabric of the question of what happened to you and how you answer it. So the definition of surrender. The definition of surrender says to give up I'm sorry, to give oneself up as into the power of another, submit or yield. To give up oneself as into the power of another, submit or yield. So now the inversion on this is red over white. To give as into the power of submit or yield. Because when you're asking yourself this question, like there's a power of surrender that comes along with it. Like what happened to you? You're gonna have to surrender yourself to the events and the activities that have gone on, the events and activities that have taken place in order for you to look at that question to formulate the answer that is going to be beneficial for you. Because if not, then you're going to always fall victim to what happened because it is continuing it will continue to happen. So to ask yourself what happened, there is a form of surrender that happens with that because why? You give yourself or submit or to yield yourself to acknowledging that the question can only be answered by a transparent in a transparent way. So let's begin the process of tapping into this deep dive of what happened to you. Asking yourself what happened to you is really like a form of surrendering or submitting, but it can also be a powerful way to develop a level of resiliency and gain more insight into what you've gone through in the past, as well as gain a better understanding of yourself and your current life and your situation because you're looking at it from a transparent way of like where did I where did I go or where did this come from? Because it can help you then reflect on the events and experiences that have really begun to shape like who you are and how you think and how you feel. Because those things and like those things that you surround yourself with. Because you're looking at it from a transparent way. It's like, okay, I see what happened to me, but now what do I do after I have understood what have gone on? Because by developing a sense of transparency and asking yourself those mental, spiritual, and psychological happenings and questions. It's like, what would you like to talk about? Well, the personal development or the professional development. Because it's asking you what happened to you and why aren't you where you're supposed to be? Like that's those professional and personal development questions. Like, what happened to you and why aren't you where you supposed to be, or what are you doing about it? So now, when you ask those questions in your professional and personal development, why aren't you where you are right now? I mean, why aren't you where you said you want to be, like right now? How did you get to where you are right now? And when you do that, I think the best thing that you can possibly do is begin to write those things down and begin to write down your response to it and being honest about it can really actually change your trajectory. Because all of us have a goal or a destination in where we want to go. But what happens along the journey? We get tired. We situations may arise, obstacles may arise, people may the people you started with may not be there when you get to where you're going. So there's going to be some separation. All of that stuff happens. But when you actually uh, continue and understand, like, how did you get to where you are? You're going to have to keep pushing because what happens is it provides you with a sense of perspective to help you move forward. Because think about this, right? Ask yourself this question like, can you help identify your identity and potential unresolved issues or emotions? Like that's a question when you're asking yourself, um, what happened to you? Like, can I identify when it happened? Can I identify the potential that I have when I didn't do this, or the potential that I've gained by when I did this? What emotional issues did I have? Or what emotional issues did I understand that actually have broken me down? Those questions of asking yourself, what happened to you? Because those things and those emotional things, you try to suppress those things where you can no longer like find your way. But when you ask yourself that question, what happened to you? You have to dig those things up. Because now let's look at it like this too. If what happened to you is important, I encourage you to look at it and learn more about you. Learn more about asking you this question. Like when situations come, just write the question down, like write it at the top of a sheet of paper, like what happened to you, and begin to whether you do it in bulletized format. I would say probably in the bulletized format, unless you just want to really write like 3-4 pages. Like put it in the bulletized format, bulletize it, and ask yourself, like, what happened to you? Write it down, because I guarantee you, you begin to learn more about the situation as you begin to flesh it out of your head, as you begin to understand it a whole lot more by being transparent and not negligent to the events or the actions that have taken place. Because remember, what happened to you is a question that is results driven. I'm going to say that again. Asking yourself that question, what happened to you, is a results driven question, because you're going to have to answer that question. If you're ever going to want to change the trajectory of where you're going, you're going to have to ask and answer that results driven question. And it will begin to develop you a whole lot more, because you become resilient, you become a lot more transparent. You understand the art and the nature of surrender. You understand how to submit to the question, because now, as you submit to the question, what happened to you begin to submit real answers. And after the submission of the real answers, you have no other option but to see it and be transparent. Like, you know what? I probably could have done better. I probably could have done better. Now, with me knowing that I could have done better, then it becomes my responsibility of doing better, right? It becomes your responsibility of doing better. And doing better is completely up to you. All right, I'm Mr. R2 here at Consistency is Currency, your morning podcast of choice. I thank you and I appreciate you just for being here. Y'all be blessed.